Hi, I'm Jeff Foxworthy, and welcome to Gamekeeper Podcast. If you want to learn more about farming for wildlife and habitat management, then, buddy, you are in the right place. Join the Gamekeeper crew direct from Mossy Oak Land Enhancement Studio as they discuss the latest wildlife and habitat management practices, news, and, of course, hunting. There's no telling what you'll learn, but I'm going to tell you, I bet it's interesting. Enjoy.
We're live in 3, 2, 1.
All right, everybody, welcome to West Point, Mississippi, home of the Mossy Oak brand camo, the Gamekeeper podcast, which we're going to start saying is the heart and soul of wildlife conservation.
I like it.
That's bold.
That is bold.
It is. Well,
We've always said that Gamekeepers is the official brand of
It's
wildlife.
the heart and soul of my wildlife conservation,
it
so
is.
we'll go from there and work out.
You can't just change the brand position, though. I mean, it's the it's the official brand of wildlife.
And we're just going off.
Okay.
We'll talk about this later,
Yeah.
but I
You're
wanted to
making
add
some big
wildlife
marketing
conservation
decisions.
in there
Okay.
as well. So.
Y'all are talking over my head.
They're doing what they do best, Dudley, bickering.
Yeah,
It's
we
an
do.
everyday occurrence here.
Well, look, today is going to be I've been dreaming about having this guy as a guest since we started
doubt.
this.
Man, Chris Paradise, are you kidding me? Why would you dream about that?
Give it a rest.
So, but today, our
Must have
guest,
been a nightmare.
we've got a guest today. Before we bring him on, though, but he's known by his initials. And how many people Laney, how many people do you know that are known by their initials?
Not
They're
very
all-
many.
But they're all famous. Lots of presidents, POTUS, FDR, JFK,
Oh, look at
LBJ.
you.
LBJ.
Yeah. I'll throw
KVD.
KVD.
OJ.
OJ.
Well, I
throw
wouldn't
you
have
a
said
nu-
that one. I wouldn't have told that one.
How about?
Yeah.
How about
That's a
Eminem?
no-go.
Eminem. Well, that's not. That's
not-
actually
that's not
spelled.
an acronym.
R2D2.
That's a
That's
good
pretty
one.
Hey,
Yeah.
How about?
ODB.
Yeah. I hear you, ODB. Did you hear that, Richie?
Oh,
Producer
my.
Richie, where'd that come from? How about this?
All right, guys. Well, look.
BCP.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
BCP.
that is some good stuff. So, look, okay, that we've had fun. Toxie's going to throw something at us in a second.
Yep.
Before we
am.
start going down the road, this episode is going to be brought to us by our friends at Leopold
Nice.
Optics and Nosler Ammunition. And
Hey.
it's time to, if you're going to sight it, you need to start thinking about sighting in your rifles.
And look, y'all have got to use some of these Leopold sunglasses.
Don't
They are
forget, they make
unbelievable.
a phenomenal rangefinder, too,
Yeah,
for bow
everything
hunting.
they got.
Yeah, they do.
They got some good stuff. That's right.
They're just quality people. And,
Yes.
and the products are just unbelievable.
Yep.
Yeah, legendary quality.
And the nozzle ammunition, you can go on their website and they've got a custom shop. So if you like shooting a 25-06 and 117 grain nozzle partition, they got it.
Oh, okay, it's Leopold and Nosler.
And
Thought you
that's
done
right.
shit
They kind of
together.
go together like peas and carrots.
Ah,
They really
hey
do.
there, There you
They're-
go, Forrest.
Big time American brands. They've got just solid stuff that you can trust. When you're hunting.
Iconic American brands.
Yeah,
They're
they
some
are.
of the oldest
Yeah,
ones
they
there.
are. We're proud
Yeah,
they're
they are.
associated with us.
Yes.
So, all right. So look here, guys. We are today we've got KVD. We've got Kevin VanDam.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Gamekeeper extraordinaire.
There he is. Can we say, is he online, Richie?
yeah. I'm here, guys.
There he
Just
is.
listen-
Wow, he
He's
speaks.
been here. Just listening to all the riffraff in the background.
There's a lot of that around
That's
here.
a great description, Kevin.
Well, speaking of riffraff, we've also got Chris Paradise in the background.
Oh, hey,
You
that's
could
all
include
that.
in the include that
And
in the
I'm
riffraff.
I'm honored to be included with this riffraff.
Yeah,
He is
thank you,
first
Chris.
team all conference riffraff,
Yeah, he
if I'm not
is.
mistaken.
He's right in the club with us, that's for sure.
You know, it's hard to introduce Kevin because I think I'm assuming most people know who he is. He's won the Bassmaster Classic 4 times. He's 7-time Angler of the Year. He's won more money than anybody
You
else.
need to be careful quoting his wins in a tournament because he's liable to have won another one
That's
since
exactly
you looked
Well,
it up.
That's
so.
very true. But after reading all these accomplishments, the first thing I want to ask him is, how's your clover looking this year?
That's right.
He's
That's
a
right.
big gamekeeper.
That's probably what he'd rather talk about too, if I had my guess.
Yeah, I mean, it's that time of year right now for us to get everything in the ground for fall food plots. So I'm actually packing. I got to leave in the morning for a tournament in New York, and I've got a couple friends that are helping me out a little bit and getting some stuff tilled and that. But we're going to be trying to have everything in the ground, all that biologic, in the next week or so. We're getting some chance for some rain, so hopefully, I mean, it's been kind of a dry summer, so
It sure
my
has.
spring stuff is not great.
I think that's the sentiments across the South.
You know, it's these guys that live in the far north. They've really got to get started a lot earlier than we even think about.
Yeah, there's people in Canada starting in June.
Yeah,
you
planting
know,
fall
it's
food.
crazy.
I'm just now
Cool
planting,
season food.
I'm just now planting waterfowl stuff in a lot of cases.
Yeah.
Well, the corn was earlier, but like our millets, we're just now starting.
Yeah, just now thinking about it, really.
So I've done a little research on Kevin's gamekeeping ability, but what the first thing that jumped out at me, he's 10 years old and he kills a deer with a bow.
Hey,
Now, Laney, what were you doing when you were 10 years old? You were watching cartoons.
I was shooting a bow, but I
He's
wasn't
probably
connecting.
butterflies in the garden or something.
I wasn't connecting.
That's
I
pretty
lasted
impressive,
about
Kevin.
30
Really
minutes in
impressive.
the deer stand, and I was watching cartoons.
So you started early.
Yeah, you know, in Michigan, when I was a kid, you had to be 10 before you could get a deer license. They
Wow.
made you wait. So it's not like in the South where you can hunt it, you know, whatever age, you know, but you had to have hunter safety. And, you know, so, I mean, I waited to my 10th birthday to be able to get that, you know, I've had hunter safety to be able to get a tag and to be able to hunt my first season. And I couldn't, so October 14th is my birthday.
Wow.
I couldn't even start hunting until October 14th, which our season opens up here on the 1st. So, yeah, I was ate up at, you know, I've been ate up with the outdoors my whole life. You know, my dad took me pheasant and rabbit hunting as a kid. I was the beagle.
Yeah, I know all about that. I still am.
Yeah, send you into the briar patches, you know, to try to kick them out. But you know, I got a pretty good taste of it early on, and just, you know, something that I always wanted to do. So yeah, it was 10 for bow hunting, and you had to be 14 to hunt with a firearm in Michigan. So those were milestones that I really had to wait for, and, you know, year after year, watching my older brother get to go and not getting to go. But I basically had a really close friend of mine, and we lived it every day. I mean, I've been planting food plots for, oh man, you know, since I was a teenager. You know, we learned about it before it was even anybody really knew anything about it. And we were just trying to make it a little bit easier to get a deer close to you. You know,
yeah, absolutely.
Just a lot different now, you know. I've learned a lot over the years.
So Kevin, have you gone through the whole, what we call the phases of a hunter, where you eventually, yeah. So can you talk about that just a little bit?
Yeah. You know, so when I was a kid, I wanted to hunt anything and shoot everything you could, shoot your limit. You know, I mean, when I first started deer hunting, it didn't take me long till, you know, we were a $4 state. You could shoot $2 with a bow, $2 with a gun. And I shot my $4 every year. I don't care if they were spikes, if it had bone on its head, we shot them. I mean, we just, that's just how it was. And back then you didn't shoot does. It was bad, you know, just bad karma. Nobody hunted does.
Oh,
I mean, nobody knew about management. Yeah. I mean, it's just the way that it was. So, and then, you know, after a handful of years of that, you learn, well, you know, I want to try to hold out for, you know, you don't want your season to be over so quick. So you want to hold out for some little bit bigger deer. And then with all my friends, you know, the trophy pressure kind of changed. And it honestly, it took a lot of the fun out of hunting over time. And, you know, after I got married and I started to have my boys, it totally changed again. And that's when, you know, I learned about, you know, more about management, and it's more about age structure. And then it's more about just the hunting, and that it's all, you know, the full habitat. And that's the biggest thing is, like, early on, I told you I've been planting food plots for a really long time, but what I learned early on is that there's way more to it. I mean, food is critical, right? If you have great food, it's good. But more importantly, especially where I live here in Southern Michigan, we've got a lot of small tracts of land, you know, having the security cover and, you know, places where they feel safe and water and all the other things. It's way more important. If you want to shoot an older age class deer, that's way more important than the food. But when you put them all together, that's when the magic happens. So we do it all. We manage the timber, we manage, you know, the fringe habitat, and, you know, we're not just for deer. It's turkeys, ducks, squirrels, you know, everything. You know, you're really benefiting everything. Obviously, deer and turkeys are at the top of our list, but, you know, we're trapping coons and hunting coyotes at night, and, you know, and you hit those key times when the fawns are dropping or when the turkeys are nesting to do it. And it just you start to see the rewards of that. And to me, that's what's really makes it fun. I don't get the time to spend that I need in a bow stand to, consistently kill trophy bucks around me, because I'm busy. Right. But it's all the other things that make it fun. I mean, trail, running trail cameras and, getting in the tractor or getting in my skid steer and knock it. I mean, one of my favorite things to do is get in my skid steer and go in the woods and just knock stuff over.
I understand completely.
It works great.
You resemble that.
I resemble all of those from when it started.
You should see the front of my front end loader on my tractor.
Oh, it is. I mean, if there's a piece of equipment that I can say they can't be tore up, just let me have it.
Yeah.
I really resemble that remark.
I was going to say.
Yeah. Yep. Especially lately.
So.
I mean, it's amazing.
Dudley, have you got a question you want to start
Well,
with?
I mean, I've got a bunch, but what are some new habitat things you've kind of gotten into or learned about that you've been implementing at your farm? Is there some new technique you've been having fun with?
Well, I'll tell you, probably one of the most successful things that's helped me to get some bigger bucks to feel comfortable and hang around, because in Michigan, again, and I've got a pretty decent sized tract of land for here. I've got a 325 acre contiguous piece. Wow. It's split by a road, and I'm one of the biggest landowners around, so a lot of people have, 20 acres or 10 acres or 40 acres. And so one of the things we learned early on is that if you go into some of these areas that just don't have a lot of, value to wildlife, it's soft maple or, open woods, and just drop some of those junk trees, just hinge cut them. Or if they're bigger, older, just drop them all in a tangled pile and try to get them all in there. And so we do a lot of these little, like 2 acre, 1 acre size clear cuts, where we just try to get everything going the same direction in a tangled mess that you can't walk through, you can't see through or anything like that. And then try to use them as almost dot connectors through the property, where you got a string of them. And those does like to bed around them. Those bucks like to bed them, and during the rut, they'll cruise between them. And, that way you can always find a good access point between them where you're not bumping deer. That's the two most important things, is give them security cover that you don't go into, and you can do it in small little spots like that, and then have a way in and out where they don't know you're coming or going. We go in with a leaf blower and blow our trails in the fall, so I can get in and out of the woods quietly.
Wow,
serious. That's good tips right there.
It's brilliant. Actually,
you have to be, you got to be pretty sneaky, because they do not they're used to being around people. A deer that's 4 years old here has been through the war. They just have. It's just the nature of what it is. It's not like some places in Illinois or Kansas or Iowa where there's a lot of people around, but they do not tolerate any intrusion into their bedroom or into their core habit. They're around people and roads and cars and things, but boy, if you bump them out of their bedding area, they'll be nocturnal forever. So it's
so it sounds like you're surrounded by a lot of smaller landowners, and so on your property, as you go into the season, you probably identify a few bucks, but when the rut starts, do you have to worry about losing them?
Yeah, my best opportunities are typically the beginning of October and the first part of the season, when they're still kind of on that, summer pattern almost, or that early fall pattern where their core area is real small. When they rut and they start traveling, that's when, they're going to go to the neighbors and have a chance at getting killed. And people are so much more efficient now. I mean, our equipment's gotten so much better. I mean, bows and in Michigan, the youth season starts in September. Bow season opens October 1st. They legalized crossbows a few years ago. And to me, that's I'm not a fan of that. It just, it's basically gun season from October 1st into January here in Michigan. And they have a hard time getting a deer to be, 5 years old. We're primarily hunting 3 and 4 year old deer. And that's just the reality of what we have. If we get lucky and can get a 5-year-old or one that gets a little older than that, you can have some, we can have some tremendous deer. And Chris has been, he's been to my place a handful of times. We turkey hunt every spring. I do have, the one thing we do really have, we're real blessed with here is everything geographically and, farm field wise and cover wise. We've got great turkey habitat, and we've learned how to really use some of our management practices. Yeah, I know.
Well, hey, isn't it funny how Chris has never mentioned anything about this? Not a word. It's just
there's a reason.
I gotta go up to
Talks
Kevin.
about the deer and the ducks, but it's like radio
this
silence
pristine
in
turkey
springtime.
farm up there. Yeah.
Hey, let's not sugarcoat it, okay? First of all, that's true. But I will say, all kidding aside, we see a lot going on with the changes in the turkey population state by state, and we don't need to get all the debate on that right now. But what I have seen is, I've been going to Kevin's now for a few years, like you said, the amount of work he puts in, predator control, management, on all those places. I have seen a direct correlation. I'm tired of him sending videos about every morning of 20, this is no joke, 20 poults here, 30 poults here,
Wow.
5 over here, and then eight more run into the picture as he's driving around his farms. And I truly believe this, that he has made such a difference of management, and his properties are very similar to the ones we have here. They're not giant tracts. You have to be careful. Human intrusion is important. But I will tell you, what we have seen there alone, Kevin, is spectacular, just in the turkeys that we're seeing already this spring. You're doing something right.
That's good news.
It's rewarding.
I will say we talk about it ad nauseum here,
Yeah.
and I mean even probably too much. The hatch, the poults, the situation nationally. All the people I hear of, that most of the people I say that are people that are taking matters into their own hands, like Kevin does. So you see, like the other day, I saw a picture. Someone had a video. David Hawley sent one of I don't know, looked like 3 or 4 hens. It must have been 20 or 30 poults. It was just incredible. And it was somebody that I know, and they intensively managed for habitat and predators.
Yeah, Lanny, you got a question?
Yeah, I was going to ask Kevin, just, since we're talking about turkeys, Kevin, what is the one practice you've seen to have the most impact on that? Would be nest predator management, or is it burn-in and habitat, or successional habitat? I've watched all the stuff that you guys do in controlled burns and things like that. It's almost not an option up here. It's just, we don't have the ability, and especially in the bottomland, to be able to make fire breaks or anything like that to be able to do it or to keep it off, from jumping to your neighbor's property or things like that. So I would love to be able to burn some areas, but I've never done that. The one thing that I learned and I learned it really by accident in managing some of these, cleaning up some of the food plots and things like that, is I just always push some of that stuff into brush piles, right? And if you have a lot of brush piles around the edge and you got good fringe cover where those turkeys can get in there and nest. And I learned it by accident, in the fact that walking around mushroom hunting in the spring or whatever like that, and all of a sudden a hen goes blowing out of a brush pile that you put there. So we do a lot of those around the edges of the food plots and the fields and things like that, so that the turkeys have a good place to keep hidden from the raccoons. And then you got to work on, those coons and possums for sure, but especially coons, you got to work them over. And we do it, right in that early season before the turkeys actually start nesting. So you can hunt them, with a thermal or something like that. That's a super effective way to do it at night. You can walk around the woods, just do a couple coyote howls and start, thermal in the trees, and you'll find all kinds of coons in a hurry that way. Or those dog-proof coon traps are just, to me, it's the perfect scenario, because you don't have to worry about catching, the neighbor's dog or anything like that. There's a lot of, potentially you just never know when that's going to happen, but they're really efficient. Put a few marshmallows in there with some strawberry or grape jam in the bottom of it, and you can use some coon lure too, but
Hey, sounds like good coon lure. Sounds delicious.
yeah, it works. It works really well. And again, that timing is critical. So we do hit them in the fall, but you just really, it's so critical to do it right then. I think as fast as you can trap them out, because other people aren't doing it, there's new ones moving in. So you give them that couple of weeks and it makes all the difference.
So really intense trapping in early spring.
Look, I have to say I just kind of reviewed the one fixing to come out with Dr. Chamberlain, and he's almost textbook what Dr. Chamberlain talked
exactly
about.
what he said.
Almost verbatim, and he hadn't even seen it yet.
Right.
I mean,
that's
so
exactly what
one
he
of the things I would point out for people in the nesting habitat, because it is, even Dr. Chamberlain said, it's very kind of tricky. It's kind of ironic, they need to be completely hidden and they need to see really good. Well, he just talked about how he created nesting, but at the edge of the field. So it fit that criteria because, hens that are in just a dense. Hello, Chris Paradise. I know that quite
Biggity, biggity.
If they're in such a thick area that they can't see anything coming, then, they're going to get probably the hen, or she may get eaten by something.
Right.
So that
Ambush.
was one thing. And then he talked about the second thing Dr. Chamberlain said, consistently trapping, not just like tickle it. If you're going to trap, get real serious about it. But he said, be sure you do it right before and during the beginning of the nesting season. Mm-hmm. And Kevin reiterated that perfectly because you can wipe that place clean of nest predators and it'll be right back in there in a couple of months.
Right.
And if you don't have good habitat to go along with the predator management,
That's right.
like he's talking about with the early successional stuff and putting the tops down.
That's something people could do. We don't actually, because we've talked about it a lot with some of the smartest people that have ever walked about it. But how do we, you almost have to be on somebody's place to help them prescribe what they would do with what Kevin just talked about. Anybody could do. So simple. I'm going to bet you his deer bedding spots, which I love because it's postage stamp stuff.
Like
which patchwork. I use that word all the time. But I'll bet you that's adding some hen nesting.
I would think so
too.
And some
but
early
he's done it
successional
adjacent to the openings in the fields. Mm-hmm. And I'll bet you anything. That's one reason why it's been so good.
Hey, Bobby.
Yeah.
One point to make too, and I think it's important. Kevin's terrain and location very similar to ours in Ohio. We don't have these giant tracts, 800,000 acre farms. I mean, Kev, we looked at a few of those that some of your big farmer friends have, but the general scope of land is in that mid-tier range. Well, when around here in Toxie, you've been here, you've seen how we have to hunt our turkeys. We talk about access, human intrusion, and I'll never forget the first time I hunted with Kevin. It was like being at home because he has access points and we go in a certain way. He knows every rolling hill, every creek bottom, how to get through it. And the one thing that really made an impression on me is if we got to an area and the turkeys weren't working, we backed out. There was no need to push them. And he's got so much access in different places to go that we never really move those turkeys anywhere off the property. And I think that's a good management practice we all got to think about because, if you got 1,000 acres and you bump one, maybe he stays in the 1,000. If you've got, an 80-acre piece that we're hunting, you can quickly move that turkey to your neighbors, and God knows what happens after that.
With these smaller tracts of land, though, we talk about losing bucks, but I guess at the same token, you probably end up seeing bucks during the rut that you've never known about.
Sure,
so
show up.
Somebody, quote unquote, somebody else's.
Just have to hope neighbors have the similar interests you do.
Well, that's the key is, basically once the rut comes, we don't intrude into any of our core areas at all, any of the cover. We hunt the edges, hunt the food plots and things like that, because I've got tons of does, right? If you've got the right habitat, we're planting, a whole smorgasbord of biologic, I've got non-typical clover. That's the standard, right? That is something you have to have all the time. That is the foundational piece of all my food plots. And then brassicas are another key factor. And then on that, I'm mixing it up with, some Outfitters blend, some Last Bite, some deer radishes. I want it to be like when they go to the Outback Steakhouse, you can have a great salad, and then you get steak, you have some chicken.
Yeah, you said it's smorgasbord.
Like a preacher.
Yeah, that's right, man. You're making me hungry.
It's a super salad bar.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly right.
And the other thing is my soil and some of my places is not real good. So I've learned through experimentation that what works for me may not work for, a buddy of mine or whatever, based on, mine's sandy, his has got clay, whatever it is. So that's where mixing it up has really helped. So, I plant like winter bulbs and sugar beets that is my number 2, right? That just provides a ton of forage. But like I'm going to plant maximum side by side in all my plots this year with that to see what they like better. Because I've had several friends and several other people tell me how much they love that as well. So I'm going to, instead of mixing them or anything like that, I'm going to, if I was going to plant 2 acres here, I'm going to plant an acre of each next to each other and be able to watch which side the deer standing in and eating.
That's smart.
I'm gonna predict
He's
right now.
gamekeeping, man.
If he's got a lot of phosphorus in his soil or an adequate amount, they're gonna just destroy that.
See, he's analytical.
Well,
he's used to trying to figure out fish, and he's figuring out.
Yeah, but
his
he's not
farm.
theoretical. He's going by his own practice. He's been doing it for so long. I learned most of the stuff I have by screwing up, and because you've done it long enough, you see what not to do too.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'll tell you. So I look forward to the Gamekeeper magazine every month. There's a lot of great information in there, but what works for you in Mississippi is different in Michigan and Ohio and other areas. But I have learned that, you apply this, you try different things. So like, when I first started planting brassicas, everybody said, well, they don't touch them till after the first frost or whatever. Well, let me tell you, we're at my farm, the second they come out of the ground till then the last bulb is gone, they eat those winter bulbs and sugar beets start to finish. I can't keep them out of it. So I learned real quick that you can't go and plant a half acre and have anything. You gotta, I learned that the hard way. So my first year I planted 5 acres and, they ended up being waist tall and I had deer in them from start to finish, with bulbs the size of softballs. So
yeah, once you get enough growth, then they can withstand the browse. But that first 2, 3, 4 weeks is critical.
Because they can eat the whole plant.
People talk about how they don't graze something right when it comes out of the ground, and I'm like, that'd be great for me.
Yeah, get it established.
Yeah.
Well, some of our blends are built that way, so they'll eat the wheat first.
That's right. Yeah, exactly. I tell you what, I'm fascinated listening to him. Kevin, I wanted to learn a little bit more about you. We've been watching you from afar, and you've been fascinating. You really are an interesting guy. So I asked Dudley to come up with some questions, just so you would just say, he's going to ask you something.
Thing?
Yeah. So let's just run through it real quick. I think you'll enjoy this, Kevin.
All right. So this is going to be real quick. All right. So just fire right back. I'm going to give you 2 options each time. And you just let me know. It's mostly hunting related or outdoorsman-y related. So are you ready?
Okay.
All right. Fried or scrambled?
Fried.
Deer or turkey?
That's a tough one.
Crankbaits or plastics?
Crankbaits.
Slate call or box?
Slate call.
Antlers, typical versus non-typical?
Non-typical all the way.
Ginger or Marianne?
Where's Sherry?
Ginger.
Pass.
The movie
That was
star.
a pass.
Bait cast or spin cast?
Bait cast.
Largemouth or smallmouth?
Smallmouth.
Yep.
Footholds or dog proofs?
I didn't hear that. You broke up on that one.
Footholds or dog proof traps?
I got both, but dog proofs.
Sushi or no sushi?
I like sushi.
All right.
Mechanical versus fixed blade?
Mechanical.
Shotgun or 22 for squirrels?
22.
Sweet cornbread or regular cornbread?
Ooh.
Sweet cornbread.
Viennes or sardines?
Sardines.
A couple more. Hinge cut or hack and squirt?
Hinge cut.
Oatmeal or grits?
Oatmeal.
Oh, my
Hey,
goodness.
that was a pretty long list. That's a good job, Kevin.
Tremendous job.
That's
That was
awesome.
good.
That was good.
I've never figured out grits.
You got to put your fried eggs on. That's the key
Well,
to it.
it's a Mason-Dixon thing.
Yeah.
Just
'Cause
one,
I grew
It
up-
is 100%.
you're so well traveled, so it really could have gone either way. I mean, I've got some friends up north that love grits. And
My favorite was the deer or turkey.
Yeah, that hit him.
That was awesome.
Did you hear the background noise? He paused, and he finally, deer, and you could hear Chris going, no.
The bad problem for me with and you guys travel all over turkey hunting, but I mean, spring as a professional angler, that's our busiest time.
Yeah,
we've
full
got
time to go to work.
And turkey season, and we're just a one bird state in Michigan. And like, again, Chris has been here, and, I probably got enough ground where we could easily do that, but gosh, it's just like, I wait every year. I've been, watching these turkeys, watching, and then he'll come into town with Walt, and we'll film this stuff, and we're done. And, one morning, I mean, we
try to hold off, but it's terrible.
Wow.
We can't do it.
Oh,
Yeah.
terrible. It sounds terrible.
tough problem to have.
Well, the day you have an opening, you're welcome to come migrate south. Chris, Chris knows the way, I promise you.
That's right.
Yeah, we'll figure that out eventually one of these days. My brother-in-law he's my gamekeeper right-hand guy too. So him and I hunt together a lot. And he's ate up with turkey hunting. So he hunts the whole southern swing. We got a lease in Kansas. He goes to Kansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma usually every spring on a little loop down there. But this year he didn't do that again. Just, I mean, a lot of parts of the country, it's down. The population's down.
Oklahoma's way down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Missouri too, I think.
Hey, I would be remiss, but Kevin, can you take just a few minutes? Let's talk ducks for a second. You love ducks. He just doesn't turkey hunt, fish, and deer hunt. We found out that Kevin loves to waterfowl hunt as well.
Do you have a spot on your own place?
So we do. We have a right next to my piece of bottomland woods that we manage for deer and turkeys is a big agricultural field. Oof. And we actually, it's got a lot of ditches in it and water, and we lease the waterfowl rights on that as well. And, we're not in a flyway here in Michigan. We don't have a lot of ducks. It's, I went over and hunted with Chris and Freddie Zink this past fall, and along the Lake Erie shoreline there, and it's unbelievable, right?
Amazing.
So just because they got that water, but we just don't have that. But where I'm at, we have a little piece of paradise there where there's 3,000 to 5,000 mallards that use that that particular area, and there's really no other option around it for neighbors to get on us or anything like that. So it's kind of a neat little deal. Last year was kind of an off year for us because the timber ended up all being flooded right next to us, and a lot of the ducks were in the woods, and that's where they were kind of hanging. And if you bust them out once, you're never gonna, just like anything else, ducks got to have a resting area as well, as you guys know. But we do have a pretty good little spot, and we try to hunt the fringes, and we've had some pretty good. For Michigan, if you can kill a limit of greenheads anywhere, it's a good day. But we do it fairly consistently by only, trying to hunt those places once a week, during that.
It's like amazing how many parallels there are.
Yeah.
I think people would be surprised just to put a little bit of duck habitat out there, maybe convince a couple of your neighbors to do the same. You really don't have to be in a flyway like a lot of people think.
No, you can get a good hunt.
It just takes putting in the work, being patient, getting them established in that area, and encouraging them to come back every year.
Pressure.
It's a blast. It's something that my boys love to do. It's what I love about duck hunting is you can sit out there with friends and socialize. It's not like deer hunting where you got to be by yourself and whisper quiet. And you can't move, or even I love turkey hunting for that, because there's a lot of that mixed in between when you're sitting there and a
lot of intense moments.
You should come deer hunting with Lanny. He talks and moves around.
I never sit down.
No, ever. So, Kevin, let me ask this. Growing up, we've just always heard about how many hunters were in the state of Michigan. And when gun season starts, it's like an orange army up there.
It's like the largest standing army in the world, isn't it?
I think that's right. So does that make it hard to try to manage a deer herd?
It is, here in the southern part of the state where I'm at, it's all private land tracts, in the northern part or upper part where it's a lot of state land, that's where it's crazy. Right. I don't want any part of any of that, but, it is, we do the best we can. Technology's helped us a lot, right? With trail cameras and that. I mean, Chris got me lined out with the people from Spartan, and I got some Spartan cams last year for the first time. And I mean, geez,
how much
game
fun
changer.
is that? I mean, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Those live Spartan cameras are awesome. You can, it's like that every day I'm pulling it up and I'm sending them these videos of all these poults right in front of my, I've got them on my clover plots, and then heck, there's 30 turkeys in front of them. And then, I'm starting to see deer. I had 7 bucks right in my pond in my backyard yesterday morning when I got up, all 2 and 3 year olds, but it's just good to see them,
Good
I got
crops.
lots of fawns.
I will say that it's also a productivity issue with Kevin and our friendship, because you're in the middle of things and bing, it's constant poults and deer and bucks. And so I think we need to cut him off on the Spartans at this point until he can, limit that distraction.
It's the ultimate.
It's a
ADD.
shared addiction.
I bet it's hard to fish and check your cameras.
Oh yeah, I couldn't think about that. They got to turn that thing off so you can catch a fish.
Well, that's what I bet he's got it rigged up where he's standing there fishing and it's showing up on his big depth finder somehow.
They got some big old screen in there.
I bet he does.
Yeah, I bet it does. I don't know why not.
Well, the thing about it, it'll all be on his phone when he gets through anyway. So
yeah, on the podium. Yeah, you can look at him on the podium.
Well, can we just switch just a little bit, just for people listening, just kind of talk about the intensity of being a professional angler and the responsibilities. And it sounds to me like, it's just what you're so intense, you're so successful at what you do, and then hunting may be your release, your way to get away and just relax a little bit.
Yeah, it really is. I'm pretty competitive by nature, and that's what I love about the tournament fishing, or what drew me to it in the beginning, is just trying to. Obviously, catching them is fun, but to me the thrill is in figuring out the puzzle and trying to do it better and faster than the other guys on any given day out there while you're competing to have a better day. And over the years I've been really successful at it, but hunting has always been that's my release. So I mean, I love November just for that. I try to schedule time where I can, hunt with my boys or, friends or whatever, just for that. So work my butt off all year to try to get a little bit of windows. But unfortunately, in the industry we're in, there's not a lot of downtime anymore. So it makes it harder and harder. I try to do a couple of trips a year if I can. I have a lease in Kansas and I haven't even been there in 3 years. It just hadn't worked. I didn't get drawn this year, so don't get to go. But last year I went on a Colorado mule deer hunt with a friend of mine. It was awesome. That was an awesome experience. I've got another friend that's got a unbelievable ranch in South Texas. That's probably one of the most intensely managed places you could possibly go, and it's amazing to go there and see how they do things and see what you can apply, up here. But I mean, they take it to another level. Texas is pretty dang special like that. So being able to get away is good. But I love the tournaments. Once the hunting season's over, man, I'm ready to get right back at it and get back out there on the water.
We're all just sitting here, just amazed.
Such a cool story.
It really is. Would you tell us a little bit about your sons and them growing up hunting?
Yep. So, I've got twin boys. They were born really premature. They were only, they're really miracles in that sense. They were only 1.9 and 1.11.
Wow.
They were 15 weeks early, and just way, God intended it. Yeah. And, but you wouldn't know it today, that they had such a tough start to begin with. But, I got them into fishing at an early age, got them into the outdoors, and they love to hunt. Anything and everything. And just like most kids, they want to shoot everything, every deer that walked in, you want to shoot every, that's how they are. But what's really, really rewarding to me now is to watch my boys come full circle. So they just turned 25,
and they are to the point now where they are gamekeepers. So they do everything with me. I mean, they do the work on the food plots. They, help with, cutting down trees, cleaning trails, doing whatever we have to do. But more importantly, running trail cameras, and they understand, I'd always told them, I said, you shoot whatever makes you happy. So, that first buck was a big deal. First buck with a bow. Then, your next one, you try to get a little bit bigger. And then, you start trying to figure out age structure. And I took them to Texas at a pretty early age. And that's what really opened their eyes there, is to see how they manage down there by age structure, and starting to look at the bodies of these deer and saying, hey, if that's a 2-year-old, that's a 3-year-old. And now they're the same way here. So, they'll pass up, like my son, Nicholas, about 4 years ago, he passed up a deer that was 4 years old at the time. It was our number one hit list deer. It was a 10-pointer that would have been in the low 140s. And it was, for us, it was the best deer we had on the property. And the second day of gun season, it walked right underneath him. He's got a gun in his hand, and it had like 3 broken tines. And he just said, no, it's all busted up, Dad. I'm just let him go. And then the following year, he killed that deer, complete full deer. And it was 155 inches a year later.
Wow.
So,
That's right. That's
they've, everybody makes mistakes, and you get excited, and you should never lose that thrill. I mean, if you don't get buck fever, but that's what it's all about right there, is trying to let, the wildlife on your property reach its full potential.
Yeah.
That's what being a gamekeeper is all about.
It is, exactly.
And Bobby, I'll add into that. I've had the pleasure of being around both those young boys in a family setting, eating dinner, sitting around, and I will tell you, they're two of the finest young gentlemen you could ever meet. They're unique in their own way. They are just perfect examples of what you hope your young boys or young girls to grow up to be. So, Kevin, kudos to you and Sherry for doing such an amazing job.
I appreciate it.
How about that?
It's a challenge.
It's
just so much fun, though.
It's so interesting to me how, a lot of people can be good at fishing, but it's really hard to be great at it. And
consistently,
over time,
consistently, and you
people
have
jump
to,
up and go away, but over that period of time,
you have to be
nobody.
so analytical about everything you do, and strategic, and understand the currents and temperatures and colors and weather, and it's way more than hunting. And so I think you have a gift of being able to put some of that fishing gift into what you're doing on your farm, and just obsess over those kind of things. And
the analytical part of it.
It shows.
Experience, you just like Toxie said, you learn from you making a lot of mistakes.
That's right.
And trial and error is a lot of it. And the main thing is once you figure something that doesn't work, is don't do the same thing over and over again. And fishing is that same way, but it's also that way when you're managing your land, and that, you want to do what works, and then try to expand on it from there. So I love it, man. I get up every day thinking about it. I can't stand sitting in the office. My wife will tell you that. She, wears me out. I like to be outdoors. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. I just want to be out there. I'm always thinking about what's the next project might be. And what someday when I retire, that's all I want to do is be on the tractor, be in the woods, or be able to with a chainsaw or a trap or whatever it is. And, just getting ready for it. Hunting season's just a small part of it. The rest of the year.
It's getting ready for hunting season. That's right.
Yeah. I mean, I probably spend
I've never
more
listened
time
to anybody that talk about this. It's more like exactly what's going through my brain.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's exactly how I am about all of that. And what I would point out, and we could go on and on about it, but for when you listen to him and think a little more deeply about it, is that, he's arguably, maybe, Hank Parker's the one told me he's the best fisherman there was. That was 15 years ago. He said, probably going to be the best one who ever walked. But, hey, it's fishing, and that's arguable. Who knows? But he's got such a level of excellence at all this stuff. But if you listen, the common thread, more important behind all of it, obviously more than anything, he's a family guy, and that matters more than any of this stuff. But he is not wasting time. Chris and I talk about time. All of us do. That's one of our big things here is you just only get so much time. So even if he's working his butt off somewhere, he is living life to the fullest. That's just such a great lesson beyond the fishing, beyond the success in business, beyond even the great gamekeeper is and everything. Is like the family guy and the way that he doesn't waste time. And when I say don't waste time, is like, he's not throwing away time getting the farm ready to shoot that big 150 or something. He's enjoying every step of the way and not just doing it. And the success is created because he's doing it to the fullest. He's competitive, yes. But, I just hope everybody gets that part behind the scenes so you don't waste time either, or you waste as little as possible, and you're getting the most out of your time on earth. And we, of course, just like him, we think there's only one way to do that, and that's connected to nature and being a gamekeeper, and all the things that go with it, especially when you can blend career, passion, what you love the most, with, that connection with nature like that. They done, to me, a fuller life does not exist, personally. That's just me.
Yeah.
So hearing him talk about it is such an inspiration to me, honestly,
Well, Kevin.
I'll hush. I was going to say that for later, but I've just been wanting to say it for a while, and especially listen to you today. And hopefully people will pick up more than everything else is like how he doesn't waste time. That's so important.
Yeah, because it's not just about big deer and old deer. It's about the quality of life.
Living life.
Every aspect of it really is.
And he said it with his sons.
Yeah.
He told them whatever you like, whatever makes you happy. It's they're hunting and enjoying each other.
Yep.
And that's so important. A lot of people miss that. This whole peer pressure thing can really get to you in hunting if you're not careful.
You mentioned it, Kevin, the trophy thing and having to live up to the trophy kind of took the fun out of it for you for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
No doubt. And like I said, my boys brought that back around to where you see what's important, and it's about I have taken a lot of kids, and not just kids, but a lot of first timers, people that are older, that just have an interest in hunting. And, we have a lot of does that we need to get shot. Mm-hmm. So, I take a lot of people on their very first hunt to kill their, and have been with them to get their very first whitetail. And it's always going to be a doe. You want to make that natural progression, and, to see the excitement and the thrill that somebody gets with that first opportunity. It's like a kid catching his first fish, and it doesn't matter if you're 50 years old. And I've got friends that are 50 years old before they ever hunted their first time, and now are, very ate up with it. It's everybody goes through that same progression. I just happen to do it at a very young age, at a very different time. Nowadays, with social media and, with just having a smartphone, the pressure, or, nobody wants to walk into a store and act like a dummy, right? Asking for help. So now you can Google it and say, learn what a whitetail rub is, or how to play, how to blow a duck call or a turkey call, or how to set a dog-proof coon trap. There's not that stigma anymore, or feeling stupid to ask questions, because people will do that. So I think COVID's taught a lot of people how important it is to get back in the outdoors, but it's also technology's helped a lot to relieve a little bit of that, entry pressure that people just wouldn't do.
Because you had to have a mentor before all that. I mean, you had to have somebody, you had to have access for one thing, then you had to have somebody to show you.
Read a magazine.
Yeah, read a magazine.
That wasn't enough.
No, you really did. So, yeah.
So, Kevin, I think I can speak for everybody down here that when the first time we saw you wearing the Mossy Oak fishing stuff, we just all were just so proud. Mm-hmm. And then to see you wearing the hunting and enjoying and wearing the camp, it's amazing. And we're so proud the way you represent the sport, both the sports.
So I'm telling you, it's been 15 or 20. I don't know how long ago it was. It was a long time. You'd already won the first big tournament. But as you know, and I have personally been friends with Hank a long time, and long time ago, I mean, it had to be early 2000s, we talked about a foray into the fishing with the Mossy Oak brand, and I was just contemplating, especially apparel and stuff. And he looked at me, I was in person, he said, look at me, he said, look, I'll help you any way I can. But he said, I'm just telling you, if you're going to go into the fishing world with the Mossy Oak brand, you got to go get Kevin VanDam. And that's in the context of what I said to everybody. But he said not just that he's the best fisherman there is right now, and I predict the best one that'll go down in history. But he's just like y'all. And he is so much like y'all, it's scary. And go find a way to bring him on board, and then I'll help all I can. But he's your guy. He told me that 20 years ago, Kevin. Mm-hmm. What a prophet he was.
Yep. Well, I'll tell you, it's pretty mutual for me. I've worked for 32 years as a professional angler. I've worked with a lot of companies, and most of the companies that I've worked with, I can say that I've had really long relationships. A lot of them that full time. Johnny Morris Bass Pro Shops. I've been there from day one, right? Strike King Lure Company. And what I can tell you about the most successful companies, people, brands, is it's about the people, mm-hmm. right? And it typically starts at the top. So there's something to be said there, but it is, it's a pleasure to work with everybody, and because top to bottom at Mossy Oak, you can just tell it's different. It's not like some of these other corporate structured companies, people, it's just different, and it's very easy and noticeable. So I've only got a couple companies that I work with that are like that. And that's the ones that it's not about business. It's, you want to be where you want to be with the best, right? Mm-hmm. And you want to be with the best
Absolutely.
People. And, Mossy Oak is way more than a camo company. Obviously camo pattern is critical, but it's, biologic and native nurseries and gamekeepers and kennels. And, it goes on and on and on. And all your partnerships with conservation organizations, and just understanding that, hey, it's not about making $1 today. It's about ensuring that our kids have better opportunities in the future, and that, we leave the woods and the waters better than we found it, and that our grandkids can have the chance to go catch a 5-pound smallmouth and have a chance for a limited ducks and be able to hear a turkey gobble. That's why we do it. Right.
That's right.
And
time.
That's the rewarding part for me of being the person that I am, and why I have the land that I have and spend the time that we do out there, because it's just, I just have a passion for the outdoors.
I just can't, we've evolved all these years, Kevin. I can't think of a greater gift. I mean, first of all, having a servant spirit about how we go about the stuff, and being grateful all the time. It's so easy for people to get kind of caught up in their own self, and they lose their sense of gratitude. Daniel said that time, your sense of wonderment you have as a kid. Kevin almost read from that script too, about how you got to keep that alive and stuff. But when you can help people get the most out of their time, and not only that, but point them to that connection with the outdoors and getting the most out of their time. I'm not sure a lot of the stuff we do in the businesses we've gotten into weren't just necessarily about how big can we make it, or necessarily how much money could it make, or whatever. It's more about doing that to preserve the fact we can do it. Chris and I talk about it too all the time, for the next generation and the next. What are we doing to make sure Mossy Oak's around 50 years from now? But helping people get the most out of their life. It's hard to put in words how rewarding that is. So much of what we've talked about today is doing that, and helping point people to that.
So talking about Hank, I reached out to Hank a couple nights ago asking him to help me with a trivia question for Kevin.
Oh, good.
And
this could be tricky.
He basically came back and said, I don't think you're going to be able to fool him with a question. So we do have one. Kevin, if you've got to say, Mac.
So you're already blaming this on Hank.
Now we're playing. Are we playing for a reviewer?
Yeah. So Mac, tell us who were we playing for
Who's
this
Kevin
week?
playing for?
I hope this is a.
Yes, so we're all playing for Maverick Hessen, who left us a good review on Apple Podcasts, and the prize will be a Stormy Cromer Gamekeeper hat.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That's a Bobby Cole special right there.
Do you think?
Oh, I like that.
Do you think his mother named him Maverick?
Maybe she was in the Top Gun.
Yeah.
Well, there's a Maverick from around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Mav.
think? Yeah. Okay.
Do you think your mom named you William?
We're getting off here.
Y'all are regressing, Brad.
So
mark that time coverage.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a pretty easy one. I think you're going to knock this one out of the park. So old timers used to refer to largemouth bass as what?
I think I know this.
Oh.
That might be a southern.
Now, Kevin,
thing.
this
That
kind
might
of
be a southern thing.
and that's
It's a
what
southern
Hank
thing,
and I
yeah.
kind of hung on to this because it's kind of is a southern thing.
Yep.
But then Hank said, "Hey, he's pretty well traveled." So.
I think about old Bud.
If it's what I think it is, it's very well traveled. Yes.
I'm going to say bucket mouth.
Yeah.
Well, you know that's that's one for sure.
Yeah,
but that's,
ring the bell.
but that's not the one we were
Well, then
looking
why
for.
don't we ring the bell?
Okay,
right?
but
You didn't
there's-
ask for the one you're thinking about.
Right.
You're asking for the one.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's keep it going though. Can you think
Let
of
me go with-
another one?
No, don't say it.
See, up north we call them bucket mouth, Bobby. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, and we call them that down here as well.
So I'll give you a clue. Green
Yeah,
blank.
Green trout.
that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
it. There it is. There it is.
That's a way south. Like
Yeah, that's
yeah,
a really, really old time.
when I was a kid, some of the people did, but they were from Mobile, Alabama, and down on the coast. They would say, "We're going green trout fishing."
Yeah, they would.
Well,
But
you
they
asked
grew
the-
up with speckled trout and
Right.
sea trout, and so they just called them green trout.
I thought that's what they were too. When y'all asked the question, like, what was it? A black? How many species of black bass there are?
I would
was like, what?
venture
I
to
thought they
say
were green.
that 75% of the listeners would have said bucket mouth.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
No, I would have.
Nonetheless,
Well, he got it. So Maverick
wins.
Maverick, you won. So get in touch.
Get
with
that
us.
Stormy Chrome hat, go fishing in it.
Yeah. So at this point, we always kind of look around and say, "What is Chris Paradise falling asleep over there?"
No, he's not.
I'm not. I'm wide awake.
Okay. So we always say, what did we learn? And I think if a guy paid attention, you can learn a lot from Kevin just by the way he lives his life and the intensity that he goes about whatever he's doing.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yes.
Dudley, did you pick up on anything?
well, I think I mentioned it earlier. He's obviously, one of the best fishermen in the world. And he's taken that analytical approach to, winning and doing that on his farm and helping other people do it. So
Yeah, that's good. Kevin, I failed to introduce Mike Thatcher's over here. He's kind of fact checking us, but we didn't really feel like we had to fact check you on any of this stuff. So,
No.
But he's got a question.
Oh no, I don't have a question, but it's I guess what I took away from today and being a young father of two kids and kind of seeing what everybody in this room and with you, Kevin and Chris, kind of the values you have with your kids and how you raise your kids. That's probably my biggest takeaway is really just to having good role models for me to follow as a dad, but also for my kids to know that they'll have role models with y'all's children, growing up. And then that's kind of my positive takeaway for today.
Lanny,
that's hard to
you
beat.
got anything?
Yeah, kudos to what you do and representing the brand. I did have a little bit of a gamekeeper question. Is it too late to throw that
No,
out?
let's go ahead.
Never.
Yeah, this patchwork you're talking about, because I've heard you talk about the place being kind of a small acreage and patchwork. How big are those hinge cutting areas you're putting in there?
Just a couple acres.
Gotcha. Because I tend to think of them as, it's too big for me to do, but anybody could do it.
No.
Yeah, and I don't think he's just doing hinge cutting. He's doing little mini clear cuts. He mentioned it as being like, almost like you would picture a necklace.
Yeah, that's the way.
Yep.
And that was a
you
real
got little.
good point for me to see. Like we're talking about the patchwork. But-
An acre is a good size. A big one is a couple acres.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Toxie, you got anything?
No, I kind of said everything already about that. But
You said it all.
yeah, but I mean, it's way beyond business to know that somebody as influential as him, you can't get what he's all about out there too much.
Yeah.
Because there's so much more of a positive influence that our whole world needs right there about this, and living your life outdoors and, tucking your family under your wing to do it like that. That's like I had the little
You got him
speech to
teared
the
up,
Turkey
Kevin.
Federation. Yeah, Kevin, it's like, someone of his notoriety can make a difference with a lot of people, but as a collective, everybody who has the great outdoors in their heart, if we can all be a good example. Everybody can be an example. We can make a huge difference because this is a rough world we live in. I was looking at the news while I grabbed some lunch at the house a second ago with Diane, and it's crazy what's going on out there today. And just people are just, it's so messed up and so selfish and so whatever. And we all know it is, but man, what a antibiotic or whatever, a cure for all that is to be, not only to be outdoors, but to live your life that way and then take your family and your friends and live that life outdoors. It is so important that people pay attention to that today, because I feel like when they're severed from it and they don't understand it and don't have anything to do with it, it actually leads to, whatever, disabilities or problems with their life. So I don't know. I know that we've got a lot more to offer the world today than just the deer and the fishing and the game keeping and all the things we do, if people would just embrace it. And he did make he's seen it too. He made a mention of that. The COVID has turned more people to hunting and fishing than probably in my lifetime. And that's a good thing. We just need more and more
doubt.
of
it. Yeah. Hey, Chris, have you got anything you want to add?
I just add that for so long, we've all talked about this. We never really did anything but support our brand, and having people be the face of the brand has never been, I would say, a fundamental core property of what we did. It's been about the brand. But when you have someone like Kevin, and we talk about people like Kevin and Hank and others and the juries, we've got a lineup of people that truly have the character that you hope and pray for.
That's the word.
Because that builds the character of the company. And,
Yep.
and I go back to, a good example is a lot of times when I'm going to Kevin's, I'm getting in late. If I'm not coming from a ball game, I'm finishing up work. And by the time I get there, and it's about the character of Kevin, his family, Sherry. I roll in late. I get a text. Hey, there's chocolate chip cookies on the counter for you before you go to bed, and cold milk in the fridge. I mean, they're the type of people that, when you think about someone representing the Mossy Oak brand, they're exactly what you hope you could have. And so for me, it's simple. He's just a good friend, but somebody that does nothing but shed light on just the power of our brand and how much it means to so many people.
It's been a lot said. Kevin, you got anything you want to say before we let you go?
Man, it's been an honor to do it. Let's not make it so long till we do it again.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it really would be.
Absolutely. Yep. It's that time of year. We can see the end is in sight. I hate the summer, but we get some work done.
Man, it's time to get out there and do it right now.
Yeah, the emotional New Year down here. The emotional New Year down the South is that Labor Day weekend and dove season.
Yeah.
And so it's not long now.
That kicks it off.
Yes, it does.
Well, Kevin, we've been thrilled to have you as a guest.
Yeah.
We've been thrilled to have you as a brother. I can tell you that right now.
Love to be part of the family, man.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That sounds good. Well, guys, I don't know. Is there anything else we need to cover?
We asking Dudley anything today?
Oh, I forgot all about that.
Look at you.
Yeah, Dudley, you got a question?
I do, and it was somebody named Andrew who emailed me this morning.
Oh, nice. Hot off the press.
Yeah.
Fresh.
This is,
I didn't even have time to transfer it to Mac. It was kind of had a lot of words, and I'm going to make it concise. I'm not very good at, but so this is Andrew Baxter. He's from Bessemer City, North Carolina, and he's got some non-typical clover on his property. Big fan of it, and really wanted to know. He's got an old drill, and it's not a no-till drill. Just an older grain drill.
Yeah.
But they're pretty heavy. He was listening to the podcast and reading about some of what we refer to as poor man's no-till or throw and mow. And he wants to add some diversity to his non-typical clover field. And it's 4, 5, 6 years old. He's top dressed it a couple of times and done some weed control. But so he wants to know if he can punch some wheat or oats or maybe some radishes in there
With his
at
clover.
the right time
Yeah.
in the clover. And I know people that have done that, but I wanted to get a second opinion. So I texted my buddy Austin Delano.
Oh, Austin.
And he said, absolutely, some of these soils that have, a lot of chert or, rock, that's probably not going to work. And some of these really heavy clay soils that dry down really hard, it's not going to work. But if you've got anything sandy, loamy, silty, loamy, that time of the year, your clover is more or less in a dormant state if it's been an average dry summer. And so, put some seed in the hopper and punch it through. He was worried about it damaging the clover, but I think it's okay at that time of year to damage it in strips that are 8 inches apart or so.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, he might want to just not drill very deep.
Sure.
Most of them are 7.5 inches apart. So and I've learned if you go a little slower, it doesn't do as much damage either.
So you're just barely punching that seed in the ground.
Yeah.
I would say if you're just mixing it in bulk in a drill to go a little bit heavier on the cereal grains, or maybe even just use a blend like Green Patch Plus or something. But you could get some final forage and add some wheat, something like that.
Sure. And I mean,
drill some brassicas in it, right?
Just test. If you're worried about it on your own place, I mean, I certainly think you can too, but, depending on the size of the field, just do half of it and see how it comes out, and you'll learn just like Kevin learned all the stuff on his place by testing and doing things over the years and trying different stuff.
Right.
I would suggest they test it because there's no doubt in my mind, I'm not looking at his clover, that should work great. And honestly, they won't have to worry about nitrogen.
Right. I was going to bring that up.
Yeah.
You got your nitrogen right there, so.
So
Quick start.
give it a shot. I mean, you've got
Send
a
us some
drill.
pictures.
My buddy Austin verified that it's entirely possible because
Absolutely.
he does it himself.
Right.
Yes.
So
a little add-on. What's the difference in a grain drill and a no-till drill?
Well, a no-till drill has most of them have what's called a coulter.
Right. Yep.
In front of the little, the wheels that are supposed to part the
It's
soil.
almost like a little
drop.
disking going on. Not exactly, but a little bit of disking before your blade gets there.
Oh, and the drill just drills it without the
You've seen the little wheel with the
Little is it like
wavy?
wavy?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a no-till coulter.
Yeah.
And they make them in different sizes and configurations.
And a grain drill lacks that part.
Right. So normally you've prepared a seed bed and you use that grain drill. But if it's a soft enough soil and there's not a lot of thick vegetation,
That's right.
it
Drill
can
it right on
absolutely function as a no-till.
But again, he talked about rocks or heavy clay that's dried out. Probably won't
Yeah,
work.
it's a
There's just
no-go in that scenario. I would just recommend partitioning your field into thirds or fourths and having different crops. That way you've always, 2/3 of the field always has something green
Right.
on it.
That'll
You don't want to
smorgasbord.
give those animals a reason to leave.
Yeah.
Never.
So anyway, I hope that helps,
it going?
Andrew. Thanks for the question.
Yeah.
No,
I'll
that was-
impress.
You, Mr.
Yeah,
Know-It-All.
that was a good question. So, guys, it's TV season now. So on Tuesday night, set your DVR, and you can go to the Outdoor Channel and get the Gamekeepers television show. It's at 8 Central, Lanny.
When is that on Eastern?
That's 9
Okay,
Eastern time.
okay.
And then I think
7
on
Mountain.
Hulu and Roku and some other places you can watch the Outdoor Channel as
We're
well.
on the internet now?
I think I think the
Look
Outdoor
out,
Channel is,
boys.
so. All right, Kevin, we had so much fun with you. Thank you for your patience and being there. Chris, hopefully you're there. Travel safe on your vacation. Enjoy
Yeah,
it.
have
and
fun.
guys, we appreciate y'all listening to our podcast, and we'll be back next week. So why don't you say goodbye, Dudley?
Goodbye, Dudley.
Get us out of here, Mac.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of the Gamekeeper Podcast. And be sure to tune in again. Subscribe to Gamekeeper Farming for Wildlife magazine, and don't miss the Mossy Oak Properties Fistful of Dirt podcast with my good buddy, Ronnie Cuz Strickland.